And we are back, and we're joined online by a very exciting guest to discuss what really looks like to be a very worrying situation happening right now in Iran. Now, remember, before I introduce our guest, you can join the conversation by calling us on our studio line 011-680-0355. You can message us on WhatsApp 061-766-0355. You can reach us on X at Salam Media with the hashtag Ramadan 2026 SM. We are streaming live on Facebook, facebook.com/Salam Media, and of course on the website salammedia.com/listen-live. We are privileged to be joined by Dr. Ali Alsayegh. He obtained his PhD in Middle East politics from the University of Exeter, and his current research focuses on the communicative and emotional dimensions of populism. He is also an adjunct lecturer of politics at Community College of Qatar. He's previously researched and written about the 1978-79 Islamic Revolution in Iran, the 2022 Iranian uprising, and the contemporary consequences of a war with Iran. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Ali. How are you?
Walaikum assalam, Dr. Abdullah. I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for joining us. It's really nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. This is harking back to the days of Exeter, where we used to discuss these types of things all the time.
Indeed, and now we discuss it with an audience. This is where we
Yeah,
are in life, alhamdulillah.
alhamdulillah.
So, Ali, um, just to kind of start, what is the whole US-Iran situation right now? Is it about nuclear weapons? Is that really just it, or is there something deeper going on there?
I mean, to start off, for there, it definitely has nothing to do with nuclear weapons. I think it's absolutely clear that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, nor do they have the intent to build a nuclear weapon. And this is evidenced through various IAEA investigations that were conducted, that Iran was open to, and even from a more cultural perspective, a fatwa by Khamenei, which the Qatari Prime Minister has also mentioned, where he actually announced that Iran, it is forbidden to build a nuclear weapon. And this kind of goes completely against what Donald Trump was saying in his State of the Union address, that Iran, quote unquote, did not say the special words, which is we don't want a nuclear weapon. So I think it's absolutely ridiculous and even insulting to our intelligence that the United States continues to say that this is about nuclear weapons. What this is about, honestly, and we do still have to emphasize that, from the 90s, we kept on hearing about Iran being a couple of years away from a weapon. Netanyahu said it numerous times from the 90s until today. At some point a few years ago, he said that Iran was a few weeks away from a weapon. Again, this is kind of Bush era WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, accusations and arguments that are completely baseless. Rather, what we need to understand right now is that what is happening is an attempt to get Iran to bend the knee, because Israel has gotten to a phase in its expansionist policy for the region where they need to make sure that one of the only states that's willing to kind of militarily counterbalance them is not going to retaliate when they engage in expansionist policies in the region and beyond. So they need to make sure of that. So number one, we need to understand this from the perspective of the only country in the whole entire world, arguably, that will benefit from a war with Iran, which is Israel. Israel wants to be the undisputed hegemon in the region, and the US at the moment is serving that sort of goal. And this is because this is the worst US administration in history when it comes to being beholden by Israel. The Israel lobby, AIPAC, has the most control over the Republican and Democratic politicians in US history. So in a sense, what they want from Iran is to essentially pledge allegiance, to give up or abandon its main proxy in Lebanon, Hezbollah, as well as effectively uh, not not posturing aggressively against Israeli expansionism. Trump this is just a continuation, I think, of Trump's peace through strength policy, where he tries to aggressively posture against states to get them to agree to deals. And right now, what we're seeing is that what Trump wants is a deal from Iran, where Iran is willing to completely give up on any aggressive posturing towards Israel, and that will be a win for him. But he will be in a really sticky situation if Iran does not decide to bend on this, to which he might really have to deal with a situation where he has to do a safe face operation, and Iran will also respond with a safe face operation. But this is also part of kind of Trump's ongoing policy of always keeping us on edge when it comes to conflict. Like, we're right about to enter World War III, but not really. And this is a way in which he kind of ramps up gold prices to benefit the U.S. Treasury, which gives a positive sort of effect where it gives a paper profit, increases fiscal flexibility, and it also keeps him in the proactive seat and us in the reactive seat. So it allows him to control the rules of the game.
Yeah, absolutely, Ali. Thank you for that overview. It was, I think, really detailed and very comprehensive. And I think there's of course another. I mean, actually, first of all, I mean, on the terms of the deal that was proposed this morning, I mean, a lot of commentators have said that it looks like it's a deal that was designed for Iran to reject it, which again kind of plays into Trump's whole theater of politics. But another dynamic at the moment as well, kind of with regards to Iran that we can't overlook, is also that since the 28th of December 2025. Iran has also been facing very large-scale protests internally. So can you kind of give us a bit of a background into like why these protests are happening and what is going on? How can we make sense of it?
I mean, two ways in which we can kind of approach this particular question is, one, there's endemic corruption in Iran on the state's level, which has really disillusioned a lot of Iranians on the streets. And secondly, and I really hate to say this because I've always argued against the effectiveness of sanctions, but Iran is facing the worst sanctions that have ever been placed on any country in the entirety of existence, really. And so that has resulted in a really strong society. And we need to keep in mind that Iran has a really strong society that has been vibrant for a really long time. And that has built its protest networks between these individuals within or groups within society over the past 5 years or so, more so than in the past. They're going through a situation where life is unlivable. If you make $7 a day, but in order to live, you need $10 a day, it's not surprising that at some point you will be, desperate enough where you would rather take your chances, risk your life by taking the streets rather than continuing with the status quo. So it's a mix of the corruption, this inefficiency in dealing with the situation by the Iranian state, and also the sanctions that have been placed on them by the United States.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Ali. I mean, as one can probably expect as well, the Iranian government dismissed the protests as an Israeli plot, which is a standard operating procedure for any time there's protests in the region, really. And of course, there's certainly, I mean, there seems to be at least some element of truth to that, if not to kind of, dismiss the fact that, what you said is correct, that there has been, endemic corruption, and of course the effect of sanctions and this disenfranchisement that leads to, and these kind of, genuine popular grievances. Ultimately, I mean, even protests started among, the shopkeepers and merchants who, up until relatively recently, maybe within the last 10 years, were largely supportive, actually, of the Iranian government. So, I mean, for our listeners who are stuck between kind of seeing this as an Israeli-induced attempt at regime change and as a popular uprising, how would you rationalize this gap? I mean, and of course, there's the added dynamic of a very loud pro-monarchy Iranian diaspora, who also, are kind of the results of a particular dynamic of diaspora politics, and the relationship with the current government, who also seem to be driving a particular type of narrative. So, I mean, between these kind of three different poles of Israeli involvement, this like sort of pro-Shah constituency,
Mm.
these genuine grievances that probably are unrelated to both of those other things, how would you rationalize that? How would you explain that to our listeners?
Do you know, like, first of all, when it comes to the Bazaris have been the greatest ally to the clerics from the 1905, I believe, constitutional, or 1906 constitutional revolution in Iran. No massive uprising was actually posed a strong enough challenge against the Iranian state without this alliance between the Iranian clergy and the Bazaris. So this is a huge move away from the usual or the traditional alliance that we see. And even the Gina Amini, a protest that happened in 2002, were a big part of that was the strikes that happened from the side of the Bazaris. The protest that happened recently started off with a strike from the Bazaris as well. And these shopkeepers also have really important kind of infrastructural locations within the cities that they operate in, and they give good, really significant backing in a lot of different ways for the protesters, for them to mobilize and find places to demobilize in, regroup, refresh. So in terms of protest strategies, they are also really important. When it comes to the question of the monarchy, and I'll get to Israel and what they've been doing on the streets in a bit, the pro-monarchy constituency abroad, I think a lot of them are very deeply resentful of the theocratic system in Iran, but they've gotten to a point where they're pushing for military intervention, regardless of whatever is going to happen in Iran. And this shows to what extent they're actually disconnected from the realities on the ground. And they have this kind of whimsical fantasy that somehow intervention is going to happen. It's going to be a bit bloody, but at least we'll get our country back. But we know from foreign interventions in the past that that's not how things work. Things don't work that simply. Thirdly, when it comes to the question of the monarchy as well, it's part of the problems of the 2022 uprising, and I wrote about this. Part of the reasons why they didn't actually push to the point of actually challenging or providing or doing regime change in Iran is because they didn't have a viable alternative, which Karl Kurzman argues was one of the main reasons why the Iranian Revolution or the Islamic Revolution in Iran worked, which is that there was this viable alternative in terms of this governmental system that's going to come after the Shah's monarchy. This time around, I think a lot of Iranians on the ground have this idea that if the regime falls, then what they're going to be replaced with is a so-called democratic monarchy, or a monarchy that will be more kind of Western aligned, that which means not because, and that's appealing not because they necessarily like the West, but that means that there will be less sanctions placed on Iran. So there is this idea of what is going to come next, which is also really powerful. I think that's really affecting mobilizations on the ground. Finally, when it comes to Israel, on the one hand, yes, they are operating in the streets, and there's evidence for this. But the part of the reason why they're announcing this is, number one, they want to make Iran feel like the battle lines are not in Damascus or Beirut, but on the streets of Tehran, which is something that Vali Nasser also argued in an interview with Mehdi Hassan. And on top of this, also, when they make those types of announcements, they actually give added impetus for the Iranian regime to engage in indiscriminate forms of violence, and
Mhm.
essentially arguing that these protesters are a lot of them are terrorists. This is a national security threat. We want to deal with them, finish up, the what's happening in the streets, because we want the streets to be clear if the U.S. decides to strike or invade. But there's a downfall to this, and this, I think, Israel is playing mind games with Iran in this way, which is when they do engage in this indiscriminate forms of violence, it increases the resentment between state and society. I mean, society and the state. It creates a pretext for more intervention, and it effectively tries to influence global public opinion against the Iranian regime even further.
Thank you so much for this excellent, these excellent insights that you've offered us. There's so much more still that we could actually discuss, relating to Iran, but unfortunately we have to kind of wrap it up there. Allawi, Habib Galbi, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure to have you. Wishing you a great weekend. Inshallah, Allah accept your fasts this Ramadan, and Jum'ah Mubarak. Ma salama.
Thank you. Jum'ah Mubarak, Karak Mufti.
Thank you. And with that, now we'll go to another break, after which we will be joined once again by popular demand by Sam Munayer.